Amma Boteng, 25, was over the moon. She had just aced what she thought was the interview of her dreams at Kumasi Innovations, one of the fastest-growing tech startups in Ghana. 4 months she had worked tirelessly, late nights, skipped outings and endless practice for the big day. She pictured herself walking into the office, confident and ready to make her mark. But that excitement came crashing down in a single phone call. Her mother, Ajoa, called just as Alma was waiting for the official offer letter. "Alma," her mother said, her voice calm but firm, "your sister will be taking the position instead." Alma froze. The words didn't make sense. She blinked at her phone as if maybe the words would rearrange themselves into good news. But no, they were real. Her own mother had chosen Efua over her, the younger sister who hadn't spent half as much time preparing, who hadn't poured her heart into this dream. The betrayal hit like a punch to the chest, sharp and unexpected. That evening, Alma sat alone on her small balcony, phone in hand, staring at endless job listings on her laptop. Her heart ached, but beneath the pain a fire was igniting. She could feel anger, disappointment and heartbreak swirling together, but also something else. A determination that would not let this moment define her. She promised herself that this betrayal wouldn't be the end. If anything, it would be the spark that pushed her to rise higher than she ever imagined. Alma grew up in Tima, and from a young age she could feel the difference in how her family treated her and Efua. Her younger sister always seemed to shine in their mother's eyes, no matter what Alma achieved. If Alma got a good grade, it was met with polite nods, but if Efua did something even small, the house would light up with praise. "Efua is so talented, Alma, you need to try harder," relatives would say, often in front of friends. Those words stung every single time, even though Alma tried to brush them off. School was no different. Alma remembered the science fair when she had spent weeks building a model that won first place at her class level, only to hear her mother later boast about Efua's simple art project at a different school event. Birthday parties, family gatherings, even casual dinners carried the same pattern. Every little success of Efua's was celebrated like a festival, while Alma's hard work went quietly unnoticed. Sometimes friends would ask why she looked so serious and she'd just smile, hiding the hurt, telling herself it didn't matter. But it did matter. It always did. Despite all this, Alma had learned to endure. She grew strong in ways others didn't see. She became independent, resourceful and quietly determined, honing skills that didn't depend on someone else's approval. But the moment her mother gave Efua the job she had worked so hard for, all those old wounds flared up again. It wasn't just about the job. It was a lifetime of feeling second best, of being overlooked and undervalued. Suddenly, Alma realized that the favoritism she had endured for years wasn't just unfair. It had also shaped her into someone who could fight back, someone who could take control of her own destiny. That pain, as deep as it was the soil where her resilience and drive had been growing all along, ready to bloom. Alma sat on her balcony that night, staring at her laptop, her heart still heavy from the betrayal. But slowly the sadness started to turn into something else. Anger, yes, but also determination. She realized that feeling sorry for herself wouldn't change anything. If her mother and sister weren't going to recognize her worth, she would prove it to herself, and to the world. The next morning, Alma dove headfirst into research. She scrolled through pages of startups, entrepreneurship programs, and networking events happening all over Accra. She bookmarked everything, scribbled notes in her notebook and started reaching out to contacts she had barely spoken to before. She didn't let fear stop her. Every maybe, or not now from someone in the business world only made her more persistent. Soon Alma began attending tech meetups, workshops and conferences. She listened closely, asked questions and introduced herself to influential figures in Ghana's growing tech scene. One evening at a networking event in OSU, she met Kojo Mensah, a well-known entrepreneur and mentor. Kojo noticed the spark in her eyes, the clear passion in her voice when she talked about her ideas. He could see that Alma wasn't just talented, she was relentless, creative and willing to put in the work no one else was willing to. Inspired by the artisans she had grown up around in her neighborhood, Alma began sketching out a plan for a platform that would connect local Ghanaian artisans to international buyers. She spent hours mapping the concept, thinking about logistics, marketing and user experience. Every time a doubt crept in, she remembered the phone call from her mother, the sting of unfairness, and used it as fuel. Alma's determination became almost contagious. Friends who once doubted her energy began to admire her focus. Her small apartment in Accra transformed into a hub of ideas. With sketches, notes and plans covering every surface. What had started as heartbreak was now turning into a clear mission. She wasn't just chasing a dream, she was building something that could make a real difference, and in the process show everyone, including herself, just how unstoppable she could be. Alma's hard work was finally starting to pay off. She landed her first freelance gigs, small projects that gave her money but, more importantly, a chance to show what she could do. Her very first client was a craft cooperative in Cape Coast. They worked with local artisans who made beautiful handmade goods but struggled to reach buyers outside their region. Alma organized their product photos, wrote clear descriptions, and even suggested ways to expand their reach online. When she presented the first results, the cooperative was impressed. "Alma, you've really helped us see our work differently," one of them said. That simple praise made her feel alive again, like she was finally on the path she was meant to walk. At the same time, Alma started documenting her journey on social media. She created a professional account where she shared tips for small businesses, insights from her experiences, and even behind-the-scenes stories of the challenges she faced. Slowly, people began to notice. Her posts were honest, relatable, and full of practical advice. The followers she gained weren't thousands at first, but they were loyal, asking questions, sharing their own experiences, and cheering her on. Each like and comment became a reminder that her skills mattered, and that her voice could reach beyond just her immediate circle. Meanwhile, life at Kumasi Innovations wasn't going as smoothly for Efua. She loved the prestige of the job, but she soon realized that the role required more than charm and luck. Deadlines were tight, projects were complex, and the pressure was real. Unlike Alma, Efua didn't have the same level of skill, discipline, or problem-solving ability. Mistakes started to pile up, and small frustrations grew into noticeable cracks in her performance. Her confidence wavered, and she began to feel the first taste of what Alma had always endured, that success wasn't given, it had to be earned. As Alma quietly built her path, one small victory at a time, she could feel the momentum shifting. Each client, each social media post, each tiny success reminded her that she didn't need validation from her family to prove her worth. She was creating her own story, one that was just beginning to take flight. Alma had been attending tech conferences in Accra for weeks now, but this one felt different. The room was buzzing with energy, startups pitching ideas, investors scanning the crowd, and young entrepreneurs like her exchanging notes and shaking hands. She clutched her notebook filled with sketches and ideas for her artisan platform, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. This was bigger than anything she had done so far. As she moved from booth to booth, explaining her concept to anyone who would listen, she noticed a tall, confident man watching her from across the room. He approached with a calm smile and introduced himself as Nana Kwame, a venture capitalist known for supporting women-led startups. "Tell me more about your project," he said, genuine curiosity in his voice. Alma's heart raced. She had practiced this pitch 100 times, but now, in front of someone who could actually help her, it felt real, intense, and a little scary. She took a deep breath and explained her vision. A platform connecting Ghanaian artisans with international buyers, helping them showcase their skills and grow their businesses globally. She talked about the stories behind the products, the communities they supported, and how her platform could open doors for talented craftsmen and women who were often overlooked. Nana listened intently, nodding and asking questions that challenged her to think deeper about logistics, marketing, and long-term sustainability. By the end of their conversation, Alma felt a spark of something she hadn't felt in a long time, a mix of pride, hope, and empowerment. Here was someone who believed in her ideas, who saw her potential beyond the heartbreak of being overlooked by her own family. Nana smiled and said, "I want to help you take this further. Let's talk about funding and mentorship." Alma's eyes widened and she could barely hide her excitement. This was the break she had been working toward, the door she had been knocking on with every late night and every small victory. Walking out of the conference later that evening, Alma felt the weight of the past months lift slightly. The betrayal, the disappointment, the loneliness, they were still there, but now they were fuel, not chains. What had started as personal heartbreak was transforming into professional opportunity. Alma realized that her determination, creativity, and resilience had brought her here, and now the next chapter of her journey was waiting, brighter and bigger than she had ever imagined. After months of planning, late nights, and countless revisions, Alma finally launched her platform, Artisan Connect Ghana. It was more than just a website. It was a dream she had built from scratch, a space where talented local artisans could showcase their handmade goods to the world. From woven baskets to colorful beadwork, every product told a story, and Amma made sure each one was presented beautifully for international buyers. The first orders were small, just a handful of purchases from clients in the UK and the US, but to Amma each order felt huge. She personally ensured every package was perfect, tracking shipments and communicating with the artisans to maintain high quality. As word spread, the platform started gaining attention. Local bloggers wrote about her innovative approach, and a few news outlets highlighted her as one of Ghana's promising young entrepreneurs. Amma's phone started buzzing with messages from people inspired by her story, asking for advice and even sharing ideas for collaborations. Meanwhile, back at Kumasi Innovations, Efua was struggling. The excitement of landing the dream job had worn off, and the reality of deadlines, complex projects, and high expectations had set in. Unlike Amma, she hadn't developed the same problem-solving skills or work ethic. Mistakes piled up and her confidence began to falter. Her manager called her in for discussions more than once, and whispers of underperformance started circulating. The contrast between the sisters was impossible to ignore. As Amma's platform grew, she found herself juggling multiple roles: entrepreneur, mentor, problem solver, and storyteller. Each success, no matter how small, reinforced her belief that she had made the right choice by forging her own path. At the same time, she couldn't help but notice how things had shifted for Efua. The younger sister who had once been celebrated now faced the challenges Amma had quietly overcome for years. The tension between them was subtle but palpable. Amma's rise wasn't just professional. It was personal too. The sisters' paths, once set apart by family favoritism, were now converging in the real world. One sister was building success through skill and persistence. The other was learning, sometimes painfully, that privilege alone wasn't enough. Amma didn't revel in Efua's struggles, but the contrast was undeniable, and it gave her a quiet sense of vindication. This was her moment, her hard-earned space to shine, and nothing was going to hold her back. Ajoa had always believed she knew what was best for her daughters, but lately things were starting to feel different. Everywhere she went, at the market, at church, even on social media, people were talking about Amma. "Have you seen what Amma's doing with that artisan platform?" Neighbors whispered. "She's really making a name for herself." At first, Ajoa brushed it off, thinking it was just local hype. But as she scrolled through Facebook and Instagram, she began seeing Amma's posts. Her professional account filled with pictures of beautifully crafted products, glowing client reviews, and articles praising her as one of Ghana's rising young entrepreneurs. Meanwhile, Efua came home more stressed than usual. Her job at Kumasi Innovations, which had seemed so glamorous at first, was now a daily struggle. Deadlines, criticism from her managers, and mounting mistakes were taking a toll. Ajoa noticed the tension in Efua's voice, the worry in her eyes, and a small pang of guilt began to form. She had wanted the best for Efua, but now she was seeing that the path she had chosen for her younger daughter wasn't leading to success the way she had imagined. At the same time, Amma's success was undeniable, visible, and growing stronger by the day. Curious and a little unsettled, Ajoa decided to reach out. She called Amma, careful to sound casual. Amma answered politely, her tone calm and measured, showing the emotional strength she had built over the past months. She listened to her mother's questions about the platform and her success but didn't let familiarity blur her boundaries. She offered answers where necessary, but she didn't invite closeness or seek validation. It was clear. Amma had grown beyond the hurt of the past, and she would not let old favoritism dictate their relationship. As Ajoa hung up, she sat in silence, reflecting on the consequences of years of favoritism. She realized that the choices she had made, favoring Efua over Amma, had not only shaped their lives but had also inadvertently taught Amma resilience, independence, and determination. A wave of regret washed over her, but she also felt awe for the daughter she had underestimated. The question lingered. Would Amma forgive and reconcile fully, or would her mother's lesson remain silent, powerful in its own way? Proof that success earned through dedication cannot be ignored or bought. Ajoa had no easy answer, and that thought left her both humbled and anxious. A few weeks after Amma's platform had gained real momentum, Efua sent her a message. "Can we meet? I want to talk." Amma hesitated for a moment, remembering all the years of favoritism, the heartbreak over the job, and the distance that had grown between them. But she agreed, telling herself this could be a chance for clarity if nothing else. They met at a quiet cafe in Accra, the kind with small tables and soft music in the background. Efua looked nervous, her hands twisting the edge of her bag. I need to be honest, she began, voice low. I've relied too much on family privilege all my life. I envied you, your determination, your skills. And I never realized how much I was taking for granted. She paused, her eyes glistening. I see now how hard you've worked. I see what I've missed. Amma listened quietly, her heart beating fast, but she stayed calm. She could feel the mix of regret and vulnerability in her sister. But she also knew this was her moment to share her truth. Efua, Amma said gently, I didn't need recognition from anyone to know my worth. I learned that hard work, perseverance, and believing in yourself are what truly build success. You can't rely on shortcuts, charm, or favor. It doesn't last. Efua nodded slowly, absorbing the words she had never heard before. Amma continued, I understand why you wanted the job and the opportunities. But life doesn't always work out the way we want. What matters is what we do when doors close. That's when you find your strength. The cafe felt quiet for a moment, the tension hanging in the air. For the first time, Efua looked at Amma not as the favored sister who had been overlooked, but as someone she could genuinely respect. I want to change, Efua admitted, almost whispering. I want to work for it like you did. Amma smiled softly. It's never too late to start, Efua. But remember, it's not about competing with me. It's about building your own path. That conversation marked a turning point. The years of resentment and favoritism didn't disappear overnight, but both sisters took a step toward understanding and growth. Amma's calm wisdom and unwavering confidence had created a space where Efua could confront her own mistakes and begin to learn from them. It was a powerful moment of emotional climax, a mix of honesty, forgiveness, and the lesson that true achievement comes from within. The day Amma received the news felt surreal. Artisan Connect Ghana had just been recognized with a major African entrepreneurship award. She held the email in her hands, staring at the words over and over, hardly believing them. After months of hard work, sleepless nights, and endless challenges, her efforts were being celebrated on a continental stage. The recognition wasn't just about the award. It was proof that her vision, determination, and resilience had created something truly meaningful. Soon after, her story began to spread. Social media posts went viral, local news outlets covered her journey, and interviews started rolling in. People admired not only the platform she had built but also the story behind it. The young woman who had been overlooked and underestimated, who had turned heartbreak into an opportunity, and who had refused to let anyone else's favoritism define her. Comments poured in from followers across Ghana and beyond, praising her creativity, intelligence, and courage. Each message reminded her that her independence and dedication had made a real impact. Even her mother, Ajoa, could no longer ignore what Amma had accomplished. During a community event that Amma attended, Ajoa publicly acknowledged her daughter's achievements. She spoke softly, expressing regret for the past, admitting that she had underestimated Amma, and praising the hard work that had brought her this far. While her words carried weight, Amma felt no need to seek extra validation. She had already earned her place in the world through her own talent, drive, and perseverance. Efua, too, saw the attention Amma was receiving and felt a mix of admiration and humility. She realized just how far her sister had come, not because of favoritism, luck, or easy paths, but because of relentless effort and belief in herself. The contrast was clear, but Amma didn't gloat or seek revenge. Her success spoke for itself, a quiet but powerful lesson in what dedication and resilience could achieve. That day marked more than recognition. It marked vindication. Amma had proven to herself, her family, and the world that she was capable of achieving greatness on her own terms. Her story became a symbol of empowerment for young women across Ghana, showing that setbacks, betrayal, and favoritism could be overcome. With every headline, every viral post, Amma's journey stood as living proof that resilience, intelligence, and determination always shine through, turning pain into triumph and heartbreak into legacy. Amma sat in a bright, bustling co-working space in Accra, surrounded by young women eager to learn. She had become more than just a successful entrepreneur. She was now a mentor, guiding others who dreamed of building something of their own. She shared stories of her journey, the long nights, the small victories, and the heartbreak that had sparked it all. Trust yourself, she would say. Work hard, stay focused, and don't let anyone else's opinions decide your worth. Her words carried weight because she had lived them. Reflecting on her past, Amma often thought about the call from her mother that had started it all. The heartbreak had been sharp, almost unbearable at the time, but looking back she saw it differently. That betrayal had pushed her to grow, to fight, and to carve out a path that was entirely hers. Without it she might never have discovered her own strength or the potential of Artisan Connect Ghana. Every challenge, every small setback had been part of the journey, shaping her resilience and determination. Her relationship with her mother and Efua had settled into a new, healthier rhythm. They spoke openly now with mutual respect, but Amma kept clear boundaries. She didn't need constant approval or praise. She had learned that her value came from within. Efua, inspired by Amma's example, was beginning to work harder and take responsibility for her own growth, while Ajoa quietly admired the daughter she had once underestimated. As Amma looked around the room at the eager faces listening to her advice, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her journey was no longer just about proving herself, it was about helping others rise too. The heartbreak that had once felt like an end had become the beginning of a legacy. And in that moment, Amma knew that her story wasn't just hers alone. It was a spark for every young woman who dared to dream, work hard, and believe in herself.